Greetings and welcome to the Road to Graduate School, the Bachelor's and Beyond. We're searching for the actual, precise motivation for first-generation students from what we call historically marginalized communities. What motivates them to make that decision to apply to graduate and professional school? I'm Mark Scheinbaum, and this started as my own research into my own doctoral dissertation, but it evolved into the stories of 6 remarkable people, their narratives, their stories about what enabled them and what sometimes prevented them from continuing their careers in higher education. We'll learn about their lives, their trials, their tribulations, the pressures of friends and relatives, and of course the financial pressures. How do you pay for graduate school? How do you pay for professional school? Along their way, I learned a lot. I reflected on my own experiences, and I think you'll enjoy listening to their stories as well. So sit back, enjoy the program, and continue your dedication to learning.
Reach out to someone, someone you look up to, whether it be a teacher, a colleague at work, whoever is in your surrounding, and ask them, what can I do to accomplish my goals?
Well, even undergrad and graduate, it was easy. There was no money for my household. My mom, we were part of the working poor. So by me knowing there was no money, I always had to go get the money to bring things to fruition, i.e. college, for example. So I had to network, I had to fill out the scholarship applications, I had to do the proper things to align myself with the scholarship stars, more or less I would call it, so they could come to fruition. So I had to self-discipline myself and put in a lot of work and sacrifice to get to this point.
I think my advice is that, we could have many things in our backpacks, like I always says, and that backpack is from your childhood, your generation, your generic, but find that fire inside of you, find that light inside of you that it define you, you define your journey. You can make things that they were impossible possible, even if it's through your faith, even if it's through your own passion, even if it's to prove others wrong. Just follow your dream.
It was one of my loves. I actually liked math a lot. I liked physical education. Of course, I liked lunch too, but I mean, that's besides the point. But it was something that came fairly easy to me, and a lot of the math teachers didn't want to teach the lower level kids either. And I felt very comfortable teaching the algebra classes and the remedial math classes to help the kids that weren't as talented. So, it worked out really good for me because they found a place for me, and I found a place, to.
If you believe there's a glass ceiling, if you believe there's a boundary or a barrier, you've already brought into a system of no faith and no belief. So you have to unbelieve that there's no barriers in glass ceiling and just go forward and don't give up.
you can imagine the pressure as a woman. So then they were like, well, why are you not married, or why are you not having kids? Because those are part of the expectations of a woman from Puerto Rico.
And the most important thing I had, which is an important part of, the thing that drives me, is freedom. Like, I could set my own schedule. I could choose my own courses. I could show up, and I was totally motivated to do all those things, and I did them. And in some ways, college was the time of my life. I wasn't a struggling student in a way, because not only did I have the military money behind me, my grades were so good that I was, getting scholarships, and I was getting dean's lists, and it was a state school, so they'd give you a little bit extra money if your GPA was a certain level, and blah blah blah. So yeah, I loved it. I had a great time.
So I spoke to this other mother for woman to me that was like a mother, and I was like, hey, I'm feeling this way. And she's like, why? She's like, you're an amazing person. You have gone so far. Don't make one little thing stop you. Use that in your advantage. And I was like, you know what? So I started using my culture and my language to make my projects. So a lot of my projects were based on like Hispanic stuff, using language like Spanish as the language for it. And the professors were happy because I was using my knowledge and what I was, grown into as part of my stuff.
Hablar con tu familia, explicarles cuáles son sus sueños. A veces, tal vez, uno tendrá vergüenza, platicar con sus padres, pero a veces sus padres pueden ser
Claro.
alguien de soporte, darte buenos consejos o tal vez motivarlo.
En un momento sueño o pensamiento de ir a la universidad como ingeniero mecánico o seguir la pasión del arte que tanto había sido inculcada por mi mamá, que es una artista de interiores, diseñadora de interiores, y ¿verdad? Seguir eso, pero obviamente también saber que pues, dividirme de mi familia, venir a vivir solo. Obviamente fue algo drástico, no fue algo fácil, pero a veces hay que, ¿verdad? Hay que hacer cambios para poder mejorar el futuro.
I don't think I can point to anyone and say that's the reason I went to college, other than honestly myself. I mean, for me, it was just a path that I thought that you take if you are going to try to better yourself, if you're going to try to, quote, live the American dream.
We're taking a look for Northeastern University and some doctoral research and what actually motivates first-generation students for college, and particularly then to want to go on to graduate and professional school, and also from historically marginalized communities, of which, sadly, Puerto Rican residents of the United States have not always been treated as first-class citizens, and Latino, Latina, or Latinx students also had been marginalized. So what I'd like you to do is, I know a little bit about your journey, but from a kid in Puerto Rico ending up going to school in Boca Raton, Florida, give us some family background and how you got here and how you got to an undergraduate program at a university.
This college email came in saying that I was accepted, and I was like, what? So I started also reaching out to other colleges, and then I found this college that was called Digital Media Arts College. It was here in Boca Raton. And I cannot apply. And when they saw my portfolio, because they asked for my portfolio, they were like, hey, we actually like your portfolio. You have, talent for art. We would love for you to actually come in and compete for one of our college funds, scholarship, yeah. And I was like, what? So I remember at the time we had just came to Florida to visit other schools. So I was like, my mom was like, hey, I don't have the money to pay for you for a flight. So I had to go to government. I had to go to people in my community that actually helped my teachers in my high school collect the money just to help me come here. that I didn't even know. They just surprised me with an envelope.
How
the day
old were
before.
you?
I was 16 at that time.
So my name is Yary Nieves. I am original from Puerto Rico. I was raised in Bayamo, Puerto Rico. It's a city close to San Juan, the capital, and I live by the mountains. I always like to recall by the mountains because there's different areas and different personalities Puerto Ricans. And I like to mention that I come from a family that didn't even have transportation to reach to hospitals or to reach to schools. They had to walk hours and hours to get education. So when I was 18 years old, there was a lot of hurricanes in Puerto Rico, and that's when my life changed, and I redirect my life into the military. I always been a 4.0 GPA student, very disciplined into my school and my academia, because my grandparents put the root that wisdom and academia is very important to us humans to grow. Some get it from the school, and others, like my grandfather, got it working on the farm, and my grandmother raising 14 children with limited resources.
14 children.
Yes, that's correct.
Wow. On the farm.
Yes, on the farm. And I come from a community that even your neighbors are your family. You raise together, you grow together, and there was no division in that community.
I was born in St. Louis, Missouri. 21 days after my mom's 16th birthday. I was her second child. I was born out of wedlock. My mother was one of 9 children, and I feel fortunate in that my mother, when I was about 3 years old, met and married a guy who had joined the U.S. military and was on his way to Korea. My mother had gotten a job in St. Louis, Missouri at a processing station because that was as far west as the United States government went at the time. And she met this guy at this processing station, and they got married, and he eventually ended up adopting us, me and my brother. And, we grew up as Army brats after that. So
How many different cities did you live in growing up?
probably 5 or 6. So we lived in Savannah, Georgia. We lived in Huntsville, Georgia. Obviously, I lived in St. Louis. Lived in Killeen, Texas. Lived in, we never ventured outside of Fort Knox, Kentucky. We lived in Baumholder, Germany. We lived in Sagahara, Japan. So, yeah, how many is that? 5 or 6, 7? Yeah.
My name is Lucia Orellana, if you want to do it with the Spanish accent. Well, I'm really excited to be invited to talk about this topic because it's something that I have a lot of pride in. I am the first in my family to graduate, but not only that, like my grandma has 8 kids, 24 grandchildren, and I was the first one.
Wow.
So, yeah.
And where did you grow up? And tell us something about your family and your siblings or whatever.
I grew up in West Palm Beach, Florida. I was born in Los Angeles, California. For better opportunities, my dad brought us here to Florida. And
From where?
Oh, my parents. My dad is from El Salvador. My mom's from Guatemala. And they met in California.
We welcome to our interview today Coach Ira Hubschman, who is recently retired as the coach for a number of sports, including women's volleyball at the largest high school in Palm Beach County, Florida, Park Vista High School. And, Coach, we should kind of mention that you really served in portions of 6 decades as a coach at 8 different schools. You've been honored by any number of organizations. And we thank you for joining us today.
Mark, thank you for having me. I appreciate the invite and love to discuss my long road long and right winding road, as the Beatles
Yeah,
would
well,
say.
before we even get started officially, we have our official questions and all of our approved interview items, but uh, perhaps you experienced what I experienced a couple of months ago and never really thought of yourself as a first-generation college student because you graduated so long ago.
Yeah, it was different. My parents were working class, and I didn't have education as background. Even though my brother and sister went to college before me, I ended up graduating before them.
So you were the first to
Yeah.
graduate, actually.
Yep. It was, like I said, a long and winding road. I probably should have gotten all those scholarships for veterans, and my father passed when I was younger, and I could have gotten the Social Security, but I went the long route and got the financial aid and did it that way.
Big
And
time.
Patrick Glover, a graduate of the bachelor's program and also of the MBA program here at Lynn University. Take us back. Here's your camera. Here's your studio. The earliest days with your mom and your family, and what evolved in your childhood to get you first to a university.
Well, first off, I want to give thanks to the Most High and my mother. I grew up in a single family held household by a single woman, and which is a queen, and she did well. And my mom pretty much instilled in me young that education pretty much was the way. It was the only way to get you where you need to be and to break down any glass ceilings in your way. So I embarked on that education pretty much young.
And your mom was from a family of how many children?
My mother had 9 other siblings, brothers and sisters.
9 others.
9 other, total of 10, including her.
And then in your family, your mother was raising you and who else?
She was raising me and my older cousin, which we grew up like brothers, which is my big brother, and then my younger cousin, which is my big brother's son. And my big brother ended up getting into some trouble, so we ended up having to raise his son as well. Well, my mom finished high school, did a little college, but didn't finish. And she always instilled in me that obtaining a college degree was great and one of the best things that one can do. So I took that upon myself, was like, hey, I'm going to get 2 degrees. Matter of fact, blow them out of the water. And my grandmother, she worked so hard. She would always say, she worked from can to can. And she was like, baby, when you get older, you don't have to work this hard. Get your education.
Did they check your report cards? I mean, was it a big deal checking your grades and report? I mean, were they really on you?
Yeah, my mom worked for the school district for over 32 years. So there was no way around my mom. She would be able to find out my grades, both academically and behavior. She would know before I knew.
So you had 8 siblings?
No, it was my mother had 8 siblings.
Okay.
I had 3 siblings.
And you were the only one who went to college, or you were the
Yes.
first one to go to
I
college?
was the only one who went to college.
And did your mother ever go to college?
No, I don't. My mother never got her GED, as far as I know. I remember helping my mother, study for the GED, and I remember her just not doing it.
And it was your stepfather who was in the military.
But I don't use the word step because he stepped in, and he wasn't my biological father, but
He was the only dad.
he was. Well, I knew my real dad.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah. But no, he's, for all practical intents and purposes, he's my father, and I consider him my father. Just like, I don't know if you're familiar with Shaquille O'Neal,
Mhm.
but he has a similar background to mine in a way, and he has a song called "Phil Is My Father," which basically Phil is the Army guy who adopted him and married his mother long after Shaq was born. And his biological father came back around once Shaquille made it big. And Shaquille's response to that was, "Phil is my father."
The people you would hang out with, the people you knew, did they have a view about going to college or graduate school that influenced you? Maybe there was no one in your household, but there were family influences involved in pressuring and encouraging people to, you're going to college. I didn't go, but you're going. Or some families said, no, hey, we want you to be happy and healthy and see what happens. So I'm spending a lot of time asking a simple question because it's not that simple when it's your life. the impact of family members.
Yes, there was definitely an impact from my father. From a young age, he had that the pressure, I guess. He wanted me to do well in school, and he asked for straight A's and things like that. And I think as I got older, he would, give me different speeches to kind of motivate me. He said himself that if he had the opportunity to go to school, he could have been an engineer. Unfortunately, he didn't have that opportunity. And, he would tell me he would share how hard it is to work.
We're taking a look at how the Army brat, with so many things perhaps thrown against him, ends up sitting here with us today in a studio in Florida as a Harvard Law School graduate. And the journey in between is not dissimilar from some of the other guests we've had in this series. So let me take you back a little bit to school, to sports teams, to church, to scouts. Just think about any one mentor or influence who you think of today, someone who really, really inspired you to go to college or graduate school. Is there any one person or one or two people?
Honestly, Mark, no. I think I was self-motivated, and I say that because DNA is like a very, very weird thing. My brother is nothing like me. My brother did not go to college. He had no desire to go to college. My sister did not go to college, and we're all basically from the same nuclear family. So, I don't think there were any external motivations for us to do, anything in particular, but certainly not going to college. I don't think I can point to anyone and say that's the reason I went to college, other than honestly myself. I mean, for me, it was just a path that I thought that you take if you are going to try to better yourself, if you're going to try to, quote, live the American dream.
So when I went to elementary school, it was a public school. But I could tell you something very different than today. That public school was a high Harvard level college quality. The teachers there were 100% dedicated to their students. There was no limitations. You have problems readings, they will take a Saturday or Sunday and come to your house and teach you and do one-on-ones with you. So I have many teachers, but I remember one in particular, Mr. Roman. He was a science professor, or teacher in elementary 6th grade. And it was my first time encountering a male teacher because all of my teachers in previous that, they were all females. So it was a very interesting shock because you're a humble girl from the mountain and now you're being taught by a male role model. But he taught me to push myself in science, and he saw something in me, inside of me, that I didn't even understood. And he challenged me to participate in science fairs. He challenged me to use my mountain and my humility and find the skills that I need to be a researcher and to be a better student. And he one day told me that I come up with these ideas that it is not normal among other students, that I was smart, that I was intelligent, because I didn't see that in myself. I only saw, well, I'm just getting good grades.
Just go back 1 second. You actually came from an environment where if you had trouble in school, a teacher would come to your home in your rural community and would go to the students on weekends or evenings. Yes?
That's correct. And they will come into our homes with their children, with their family, and they will, maybe the children will wait outside or the husband will chat with my grandfather when she was doing maybe English lessons, or reading or whatever it was the need that I needed, she will do that one-on-one. And that individual communication and one-on-one humility, that's what it pushed me to be a student and the person that I am today. Because like Mr. Roman on that teacher, especially in English, because I was a Spanish speaker, she taught me, hey, there's no limits. We are Puerto Ricans, we are in an island, we are from the mountains, but nothing is impossible if you want to put that in your list.
My mom went for school. She got her associate in what is interior design. So my mom always was the person to be drawing and doing blueprints and stuff like that, and also sewing because when she was in high school, she went to an extracurricular school for sewing. So she was always really involved into art. So when it comes to my projects at school, I was always involved in that. Like always, I was that one kid that when it was art projects, whenever they were like, like extra, how we can say, because I had that passion from her. So even though she never was like, oh, you need to do that, I was always involved in art with her, and she will always like show me how to do things, and like technical aspects of art that not like a normal kid would know. Like when I was already in middle school, I knew what like these type of drawings or technical drawings were called, and it was great. And
But she never completed a bachelor's degree herself.
no, she never completed a bachelor's degree herself. So like for example, right now she works at Home Depot, but she's one of the designers, so she designs the kitchens and everything because she has the knowledge. But it doesn't mean that she has
Did
a
you
full
have
degree.
any brothers and sisters at home who were in school also, or no?
No, so from my mom's side, I'm the only son.
In high school, I was pretty much mischievous. So I was in a dropout.
Really?
Yeah, I was in a dropout prevention program. And by me being in this dropout prevention program, it was like a sub entity of communities and schools, which I received a scholarship from communities and schools to attend Lynn University, which Mrs. Lynn provided the money.
The Lynn family, the founders of
The-
this university.
The Lynn family provided a $100,000 scholarship for me to attend.
But you're
Lynn
saying
University.
Patrick Glover was a little troublemaker in high school, a little problem child? Really?
Absolutely. I ended up going to 3 different high schools.
Whoa!
Yeah, I ended up going to 3 different high schools. I had a guidance counselor. It was like a double-edged sword. I had one guidance counselor say, "Hey, you're not gonna make it." Then I had another guidance counselor overhearing that guidance counselor, like, "Hey, you come in my office."
So the big three, peer pressure and friends. Yeah, there was somewhat discussion, but there were people weren't on you all the time. Or you got to go to college. Family, yes, mother and grandmother, education, and the third part of our puzzle that we identify: finances, student loans, burden. Can I really handle student loans for the rest of my life? Is it going to hurt my family? Do I need to work? Tell us about the financial questions that might have motivated you for that decision to go on to graduate school.
Well, even undergrad and graduate, it was easy. There was no money from my household. My mom, we were part of the working poor. So by me knowing there was no money, I always had to go get the money to bring things to fruition, i.e., college, for example. So I had to network, I had to fill out the scholarship applications, I had to do the proper things to align myself with the scholarship stars, more or less, I would call it, so they could come to fruition. So I had to self-discipline myself and put in a lot of work and sacrifice to get to this point.
Mi consejo para ustedes sería que hagan esas preguntas. Vayan y a los que conoce, si sea un amigo o tal vez alguien que usted conoce en el trabajo, en la escuela. Pregúnteles qué opciones hay, qué pasos tengo que hacer para llegar donde yo quiero estar, para alcanzar mi meta. No tenga pena en pedir ayuda o un consejo.
Y charlando con amigos y familia también, ¿o no?
Claro, claro. Hablar con tu familia, explicarles cuáles son sus sueños. A veces, tal vez, uno tendrá vergüenza, am, platicar con sus padres, pero a veces sus padres pueden ser
Claro.
alguien de soporte, darte buenos consejos o tal vez motivarlo.
We're looking into the motivation for students who have graduated recently, or maybe they graduated a long time ago with a bachelor's degree, and they're thinking about perhaps applying to graduate or professional school, and particularly students from what we call now historically marginalized communities. And this can be anything from people with special physical needs to people who feel that they were bullied because of language, ethnic, racial backgrounds, or whatever. And mainstreaming them really was not enough to motivate a lot of people to make that tough decision to go ahead beyond the bachelor's program as part of their career choice. Give us any additional things if you're now speaking to the senior class at XYZ University in terms of career decisions and people, particularly people who are facing those big financial burdens. Give them your message about graduate school or professional school.
My personal message would be, and I don't know if this is the answer that you want to hear.
I don't want to hear any answers. I want to hear synthesized answers from lots of people.
Okay. So, if you do not know already something that you are passionate about, that you cannot live without, and I don't mean just to check a box on a sheet of paper to say that you are X, you accomplished X, you did X, but something that you really, really enjoy and love. If you don't know what that thing is at that point in time, graduate school can be a couple of different things. It can be, for a lot of people, it is a way to stall that decision. You don't have to make that decision because you're in school and you're still like living life and enjoying it and, experiencing the things that go along with it. Okay. However, if you're going to acquire an immense burden in, a large debt load, I don't know that I would recommend that as a way to go. And if you're still trying to figure out what works for you, because the world has changed so much, and other cultures do things differently than we do, and we can learn from what they do. I would say that it's not a bad idea. There's no rush. Like if you're 23, 24, 25, whatever, there's no rush. You're probably going to live to be 80 years old. You're not in a hurry to get a graduate degree and start working, and start a job, as an analyst on Wall Street or something like that. It's okay to take a little bit of time and see if there's something that you think that you can enjoy doing and enjoy it in a way that it positively impacts others for the rest of your life. And once you figure out what that is, there are so many educational paths that you can pursue, which at that point would give you not only the value of the education, but also provide you with the expertise to become a better X at whatever it is that you want to do. So, I didn't have this pressure, but some people do.
The big question now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is a doctorate now on the agenda? Because you were able to do the master's. So what's next? What, the doctorate also?
So yes, I actually it has been my passion, and it has been a thought for the past year and a half, I will say, to do a doctorate. Of course, I have been putting a lot of thought into what. um, because the big part is that in here in the career of animation and film, there's not so called like doctors. There's not like a doctor in film unless it's specific in history or stuff like that. So when I look up what I know and what I'm doing, there's no like a specific doctorate that works on that. So my thought has been of what other areas in my life I can do this on. Um, that also benefits my leadership, or so like that. So I know, for example, here at Lynn, they have a leadership doctorate, and I have been looking through it. I have researched everything because I'm like, maybe it's something that I would love to do.
So you're in the bachelor's program, you're completing your bachelor's degree, and how do you hear about a graduate program and decide to continue?
Oh, well, let's stop there. And this is the Patrick Glover story. I always tell people I'm the underdog overachiever. And I say that because I wasn't the first person selected to receive the scholarship to Lynn University. There was others selected before me, and they ended up dropping out, which put more weights on my shoulder because when I got the phone call, hey, Patrick Glover, there's a scholarship available for you. I won the one to attend Palm Beach Community College at the time, now Palm Beach State College. Now I have an opportunity to come across the bridge, I would say, the academic triangle, FAU, Palm Beach State, and Lynn University, and now attend the illustrious Lynn University. And complete this knowing that someone else had dropped the ball, and then I would have to put those weights on my back and actually fulfill the commitment and assignment.
But there was a special brand new pilot study for an accelerated MBA program. Take a minute. How did you hear about that, and how did you get in this accelerated MBA program after your bachelor's degree?
Well, coming up to the graduation of my bachelor's degree, I graduated number one undergrad cum laude. So let's give me applaud and accolades for that.
Wow.
Yep, graduated cum laude. I missed graduate program by 1 point. I would have been cum laude there. But finishing cum laude, I overheard some instructors, my guidance counselor, career counselor was like, hey, you'll be a good fit for the MBA Express program that we're rolling out. It's a new program. It's rigorous, but you'll be a good for it. And it was rigorous. They went back and redid the program a little bit because it was consisting of a lot of work, a lot of APA paper format and things of that nature that we all know in the world of graduate, But it was a great experience. We did a study abroad domestically at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, the SIBO, Options Express at the time. We were able to see the whole Midwest money district. Oh, it was phenomenal. So,
and then upon completion of your MBA, you went on to a career which includes what now?
I spent 16 years in the school district of Palm Beach County. Last recent as computer lab manager. I have a business, a consulting firm that's doing great, as well as I have another consulting firm that consists of precious metals and NFTs called Lion Order Gold.
My grandfather, he didn't know how to read, and some of my family are analphabets, so they didn't know. I used to walk with them to the bank and do the X. So he always says, I want you to read.
And the day you finally sent in or transmitted that application for Palm Beach Atlantic University, were you thinking about any of this, or was it just something you did?
Oh, absolutely. It was a fight within myself because, as from that generation, you still had those genes and you still had those voices that, why are you doing this?
Did sometimes the Army eliminate some of the problems for you, but maybe not by the time you were going for your next master's degree, because you had been a sociologist. What about the financial pressure and the financial consideration to go for that master's degree in mental health counseling? Was that a factor in your decision?
Yes, it was a factor because I have sacrificed a lot. And I say, I just need to push it a little bit more forward. And I had to continue believing in myself, and the money will come.
And it did.
Yes, it did. And the opportunities came, and the resources and the connections.
Did you ever feel because you were a woman or because you were a woman of Hispanic or Latinx heritage that you were less than someone? Did you ever feel discriminated against in any way or oppressed because of that?
Oh, absolutely.
Examples.
Yes, I can give you a clear example. Just arriving in the military, they say, well, where is your Indian clothes?
Your Indian clothes.
Exactly.
Because they thought you were Guajira from the movies.
Yes, because that was the expectations from others in America, that we still wearing Indian clothes and we are a Commonwealth country. We're part of the United States.
And there were people who did not know that Puerto Ricans were U.S. citizens.
Exactly. Yes.
That was just how you got into the military. So
Yes. So that you can imagine the pressure as a woman. So then they were like, well, why are you not married, or why are you not having kids? Because those are part of the expectations of a woman from Puerto Rico.
Bob Arnold, at age 25, military veteran, a good background in his bachelor degree program. Take 2 or 3 minutes to walk us through the time from that graduation day to the time that you made the decision to fill out that application, to mail it in or whatever, and to apply for graduate or professional school. How did that come about? Where did you choose to apply, and why?
Well, you do all of that long before you graduate. I mean, that process starts long before you graduate.
No, not if somebody, we know people who graduated and they don't apply to graduate school to 15 years later.
No, that didn't happen. That wasn't.
So while you were a senior?
Even before I was a senior. I have a friend, Tom D'Artes, if you ever meet him. He has a story of when we were privates, me telling him that I was going to go to Harvard Law School. I don't remember telling him that, but he tells me that story.
Wow, really?
That's what he says. So the process for putting myself in position to go to graduate school or law school for me sort of began when I realized I could not be a naval aviator. I could not be a Marine Corps fighter pilot when I lost my 20/20 vision. And at that point, I was sort of bummed out for a period of time. Then I was just thinking, well, what the hell am I going to do? What can I do with my life? I still want to do something that is sort of on the elite level. I still want to do something that people can be proud of, something that I've done, all of these things. So I basically, maybe 16 years old, I said, I guess I can go to law school.
So on a personal level, should finances be the thing that stops them? Have your students found scholarships and loans available that have surprised them or have defeated them?
A little bit of both. I mean, some kids, could not continue on to school because of, other things to, try to help the family. And of course, now with COVID coming through, I noticed a lot of kids, kind of slacked on their education because of all the problems there.
And whatever happened to Dr. Reynolds? Did you ever keep in touch with him, or?
He actually, he remarried, I know that, and he was working as a travel agent. He bought a travel agency and remarried, and he was actually coaching the national basketball team of Thailand.
Really?
At one time.
Wow. That's a long journey. Ira Hubschman, thank you for being with us today in our studios. Another tale in the journey to first generation higher education. You knew you were going to be going for a graduate degree in what field? Psychology?
So counseling.
Mental health counseling.
Mental health counseling.
And you saw a need in your day-to-day work at the clinics and the sessions and the facilities you were working in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so where did you apply?
Palm Beach Atlantic University.
And how many years did you spend there?
2 years.
And were you finding support financially with work study and programs or internships, or were these internships not available until you completed a certain number of hours? I mean, tell us a little bit about the financial pressures on you during those 2 years.
Mm-hmm. So I did look into any kind of help scholarship or anything like that, and I didn't find any because I was a graduate. A lot of the help and the scholarships are usually for undergraduates, and I didn't do too much research on the work study, so I don't know if that was available, but I was working my full-time job.
So you were still
So
doing the full-time job.
I was, yes. So, as I mentioned, I relied on loans mostly, and then whatever scholarship I could get through my workplace.
And you graduated when?
In December, last December.
And what was your family reaction to you being the first person in your family with a graduate degree?
Well, we did definitely have a party. They threw me a party, which was really sweet. And I had cousins, verbally say to me that I am an inspiration. So that was really moving.
I mean, come on. I mean, we have people who, for whatever reasons, are encouraged to get an undergraduate degree.
Mhm.
But in the extended group of cousins, nieces, nephews, and everybody, you were the first for the undergraduate and the first for the graduate.
Mm.
So, come on. You could crow a little bit about yourself. I mean, how's it make you feel?
I feel amazing. I feel a little guilty bragging about it, but there
No.
are moments where I'm like, oh, yeah, I did that.